Shakti Seer 2.
Today I want to read a book or a stotra. It's like one of the later works of Nagarjuna. During his third turning of the Dharma wheel, he produced all of these praises, these hymns almost, to the absolute truth. And this was the cream of his work, his pinnacle achievement. So this stotra is called In Praise of the Dharmadhatu. In Praise of the Dharmadhatu. Dharma means truth, it can also mean reality or law. Dhatu means element. So this means in praise of the truth element. In praise of the true element within ourselves. In other words, to the real part of that immortal existence, a part of that eternal infinite reality, that part of ourself. Is the Dharmadhatu. Alright, so, beginning. Homage and short description of Dharmadhatu. There is something which, as long as left unknown, results in life's three planes of vicious circle. Beyond all doubt it dwells in every being. To the Dharmadhatu I devoutly bow. So it's saying that there is something within you that if you don't know what it is, it will cause you to keep going in the cycle of birth and death in one of the three realms, hell, earth, or heaven. But when you realize the Dharmadhatu, the Tathagata Garbha that we talked about a little bit ago, the womb of the the embryo of your God nature, the embryo of the Buddha nature, when that is realized within you beyond all doubt, it dwells within every being. When that is realized within you, there is no more samsara in either heaven, earth, or hell. Heaven, the abode of the demigods, is still seen as samsaric realms, meaning realms where birth and death takes place. But once this true nature is realized, there is no more birth and death, but immortality. 2. When that which forms the cause for all samsara is purified along the stages of the path, this purity itself is nirvana. Precisely this, the Dharmakaya too. Dharmakaya is one of the three bodies of the Trikaya, the three bodies. One of them is called the Nirmanakaya, that is the physical and etheric body. Then there's the Sambhogakaya, which is everything in between that and the absolute reality, and the absolute reality is the Dharmakaya. So it's like similar to the Kabbalistic concept of Nefesh, Ruach, and Neshama. You have an absolute body is the Dharmakaya, which is, if you are aware of like theosophy and stuff like that, it's the 7th layer. And then you have everything from the monadic layer, represented by the third eye, down is the Sambhogakaya, and the physical etheric body is the Nirmanakaya, the manifested body. So the Dharmakaya, it says here, this purity itself is nirvana, precisely this, the Dharmakaya too. So saying within you, you have the capacity for pure nirvana, because that's your ultimate nature. As butter, though inherent in the milk, is mixed with it and hence does not appear. Just so the Dharmadhatu is not seen as long as it is mixed with other afflictions, So, you can say that the butter is in the milk. All you do is churn, I don't know the exact process, I think you just churn the butter. But either way, the butter is inherent in, or just churn the cream or something and it becomes butter. I'm not up on all the butter churning, but either way, just as this analogy, for example, the nature of the butter is inherent within the milk. Likewise, the nature of the absolute is inherent within the not-self. It's inherent within the ego. The ego is the mixed absolute, diluted, and so the Dharmadhatu is not seen. But the Dharmadhatu is within the not-self, is within the ego even. Within what you would classify as the causal body. Within the lower self is like the milk. And within that milk is the potential for transmutation into the butter. So it's not a separate thing. The butter and the milk are one. So likewise, the not-self and the self are one. It's just a matter of purification. And just as the inherent butter essence, when the milk is purified, is no more disguised, when afflictions have become completely purified, the Dharmadhatu will be without stain at all. So the Dharmakaya also is the truth body. It's seen as the final body of a Buddha. The eternal nature. When afflictions have been completely purified, the Dharmadhatu will be without any stain at all. When there is no stain on the self due to separation, duality, absorption in mundane activities, material thinking, basically the stain is ignorance. And when the stain of ignorance can be purified by the cleansing water of consciousness, directly realized wisdom, the Dharmadhatu will shine. So it's really just an alchemy, what he's describing. Like an alchemy of milk into butter. The analogy of the butter lamp. As a butter lamp that burns inside a vase would not even be slightly visible as long as left inside affliction's vase, the Dharmadhatu is not visible. So imagine that you have a butter lamp that's burning inside of a vase. The afflictions are like the vase. The ignorances, the attachments, everything that draws us away from our awareness in a destructive or ignorant way. Everything that obscures our vision of the absolute, this is like the vase, which must be broken. And this very thing is the not self itself. It's like the causal body, formed of our memories, our attachments, our personal this and that. These things which tie us into the illusion of existing in a separate dualistic world outside of the absolute. are the afflictions which prevent the Dharmadhatu from being visible, which is that very absolute which is inherent within the heart of every single person. If one perforates the surface of the vase, whatever holes are made in whichever directions, through those and in precisely those directions, light will shine as its nature too. So like we're doing this talk, as I'm talking to you, I'm poking holes within the vase of misconception. As Nagarjuna is talking to us, poking holes through the vase of our misconception. And light, there's some kind of consciousness which comes through. This is the Dharmakaya, the truth body. And it's not separate from the body of the Buddha, from the body of God. Specifically, God as pure, awake, enlightened consciousness, which is what he is. So perforating through the little holes in our vases, the light begins to shine through more from within our own self. As is its nature too, because that's the nature of the light of wisdom. At the moment when the diamond-like samadhi, the vajra-like samadhi, the diamond-like concentration, is able to obliterate the vase, at that very moment the light burning inside will shine throughout the reaches of all space. The Dharmadhatu was never born, nor will it ever cease. At all times it is free of all afflictions, at the beginning, middle, and end, free from stain. Let's see, Robin has a question, and yeah, if you guys have a question with anything I'm saying, please feel free to add it in the chat and let me know. Robin asked, what's dhatu? Dhatu means element. It means the element of dharma, truth. Where is the truth coming from? What is truth? Well, as the song that we sing often goes, Ekonkar Satanam, God is one, his name is truth. Buddha is truth. So the Dharmakaya is that element of God consciousness within ourselves. From within to without, same or different? What do you mean? The difference between... No, Dharmadhatu is the Dharmakaya. Kaya. Is it like Atman? We were reading that yesterday in the Mahaparinirvana Sutra. Yeah. It says right here, the eternal is the Tathagata's Dharmakaya. You hear this quote I'm going to post in the chat room there. The eternal is the Tathagata's Dharmakaya. And this is the self. This is the true self. Absolutely. By all means. But the true self's not any kind of dualistic or non-dual. It's beyond dual and non-dual. Beyond permanent and impermanent. Beyond all opposite extremes. It's beyond words. Beyond human logic. Can I continue? The analogy of the sapphire and the stone. As sapphire, the precious gem, shines with brilliant light all the time, but when confined within a grosser stone, we do not see its bright light shine. Just so, although obscured behind afflictions, the Dharmadhatu has no trace of flaw. While samsara blocks its light, it does not illuminate. Nirvana gained, its light will brilliantly shine. The analogy of pure gold. If the fundamental element is present, work will yield the sight of pure gold, of purest gold. If the fundamental element were lacking, the labor would produce no fruit but woe. So you see, it's the pure element. The fundamental element which is causing the self to be transmuted, or the not-self to be transmuted. The fundamental element which is causing this bliss, which is causing this attainment. It's what is attained. It's what you're seeking to attain. The absolute nature, Dharmadhatu. That's what that means. Dharmadhatu means absolute nature, basically. Truth element. If the fundamental element is present, work will yield the sight of purest gold. If the fundamental element were lacking, the labor would produce no fruit but woe. He doesn't put it in little neat boxes or labels, but he realizes this fundamental element is itself the whole thing. And also not. And also in between, and also neither. Like magic, the non-arising dharma changes, shifts, moves, grows, expands, never rests on one static truth, because the spiritual reality is dynamic and also never anything independent. But the true self, when realized, is an interdependent self, and as such it doesn't exist as a separate, and yet it does exist as a separate. So it's a middle way between all of the extremes, and you see the pure crystal magic-like nature of reality, where everything is possible and does become. There's nothing that you could think of that's impossible that hasn't happened. The reality is so beyond. And that's what's meant by tathagata. It means the one from beyond. And there's another term, shugata, well gone one. It's one of Buddha's names. The reality is just so beyond the mind's comprehension. As kernels are not considered to be rice, as long as they are enveloped in their husks, just so the name of Buddha is not given to all of those whom afflictions still enfold. And just as when loosened from the husk, the rice itself is what appears, just so the Dharmakaya itself, when loosened from afflictions, freely shines. If the Dharmadhatu were present, beings would have the essence of Buddhahood. So the Dharmadhatu is that thing, when present, makes a human into a Buddha, into a realized being. It is said, banana trees are void of pith. One uses this example in the world, but the fruit of such tree has pith indeed. When eaten, it is sweet upon the tongue. Just so, samsara has no pith, and if beings can remove affliction's peel, the fruit within is Buddhahood itself, the nectar for all corporeal beings to taste. Pith, I think, means like a rest, like a yoga pith means like a central place. I'm not sure what that means exactly, the pith, but we got an idea. And just as from a given seed, a kind of seed of fruit results resembling its cause, who with common sense would seek to prove a fruit exists without its specific seed as a cause? The basic element which serves as seed is seen as the support of all great qualities. Through gradual refinement, step by step, the stage of Buddhahood is attained. Although the sun and moon are unstained, 5 veils exist which manage to obscure them. These consist of cloud and fog and smoke, the face of Rahu, and dust as well. And so it is, as well, for mind's clear light. 5 obscurations manage to obscure it: desire, laziness, ill intent, agitation, as well as doubt. And then it says, why the Dharmadhatu would not be cleared away by clearing obstructions. The example of fire cleaning soiled cloth. The example of teaching emptiness. Just as fire can clean a soiled cloth, miscolored with various marks and stains, just as when submerged within the fire, the marks are burned away, but not the cloth, it is just the way that the mind, which is radiant clarity, is soiled by desire and the other stains. But the fire of primordial awareness burns up these afflictions, without, however, burning away the radiant clarity. In the sutras of the teacher, i.e. the Prajnaparamita Sutra, the Heart Sutra, in whatever ways the victor describes emptiness, all of these ways can rectify afflictions, none can diminish the potential. Just as water deep inside the earth lies untouched and perfectly clean, just so can primordial awareness rest within affliction and remain completely free of any flaw. Impermanent and suffering and empty, 3 designations purifying mind, but what refines the mind to its utmost is the teaching that nothing has any inherent self-nature. And that was like I was saying before, to realize the radiant clarity and the magic-like nature of creation. Creation happens in a mental, magical way, which is not free from interdependent relationships as it arises from certain causes and conditions which themselves are not necessarily arising out of other causes and conditions. But truth is neither permanent nor impermanent. And likewise, the self-nature is neither permanent nor impermanent. It's a process. It's like a fluxing, changing, dynamic wave. That's what's meant by nothing has any self-nature. Not that you don't have a self-nature, but it's not a permanent, stuck, static, separate self-nature, but something which exists in relation to other things, which grows, changes, waxes and wanes, like the moon reflecting on the water of the ocean. As a child in a pregnant woman's womb is there and yet is not visible. Likewise, when covered by afflictions, the Dharmadhatu is not visible. From thinking I and mine, and from thinking of names and grounds for these, 4 conceptual patterns come to be due to elements and compounds too. The Buddhas do not perceive any characteristics of their aspiration prayers because the Buddhas are of the nature of self-awareness and have their own permanently pure being. Just as the horns on rabbits' heads do not exist except in the imagination, phenomena are precisely like that, merely imagined, having no existence. So here's the teaching of impermanence. Nothing that arises can exist. Likewise, for forms, consciousness, emotions, thoughts, they have no inherent existence. They're not inherently real. They have the meanings which we apply to them. And they fade in and out. They're not eternal existing. And therefore their nature is empty, because they have no inherent existence. They arise in relation to other causes and conditions, and they fade away in relation to other causes and conditions. They're impermanent. And therefore empty of an inherent existence. So that thing which doesn't fade away, that thing which does not arise, is that thing which is eternal. And that's the Dharmadhatu. It doesn't arise as male or female. It doesn't arise as Caucasian or African. It doesn't arise as a lizard or a tree or a grass or a butterfly or an atom of carbon or as a solar system. It doesn't arise as any of those things, and yet it does. And neither, and both. That's called the quaternary, the fourfold logic of Nagarjuna, in relation to the intrinsic, pure existence, which is Dharmadhatu. So imagination is a relative phenomena. It's not absolute. And it's not absolute, and it's not neither, and it's both. The magic-like, expanding, contracting nature of things are what's realized by Nagarjuna's middle way. Because they are not made of solid atoms, the horns of oxen cannot be seen either. Since not even tiny atoms exist, how could one imagine that something made of atoms exists? So that's something we can only understand recently. Quantum mechanics. Do atoms exist or not? They change from wave into particle. They seem to disappear and reappear. Do they even exist, quote unquote? Or are they a relative phenomena? A relative arising and fading phenomena? So everything in reality is just an illusion. And yet it isn't, and neither, and both. Clear of all mental obstructions. The reality is seen to be neither inherently existing and yet inherently existing, completely like a flash of lightning. It's continuous and interdependent on everything else, and therefore its existence in moment to moment is relative to everything else. But at any moment it can change. The whole thing. Likewise, yourself at any moment can change. Because you have that dynamic power of transformation that this whole universe has. Since arising is a dependent occurrence and cessation is a dependent occurrence, there is not one single thing that exists. How could the naive believe that there is? Using examples like rabbits and oxen's horns, the thus gone one has proven that all phenomena are nothing other than the middle way. I like to think of it like one example they gave that struck with me is the example of being like lightning. Like how lightning flashes. Reality is flashing like that. And you can observe it in meditation also. I'm sure you've had that experience before of observing the reality as kind of being like flashing light. Just as one sees the forms of the sun, moon, and stars reflected in vessels of perfectly clear water, so is the consummation of signs and characteristics. Just as one sees the forms of the sun, moon, and stars reflected in the vessels of perfectly clear water, so is the consummation of signs and characteristics. Just as one sees the forms of the sun, moon, and stars reflected in vessels of perfectly clear water, so is the consummation of signs and characteristics. That which is virtuous in the beginning, middle, and end, the Dharmadhatu, is undeceiving and is marked by constancy, and is free from self in this very way. How could the thought of I, or how could that be thought of as I, quote unquote, or quote unquote mine? So these ideas I and mine arise from a relative thing again. We have to think of it again, because this I and mine has arisen relative to the elements and conditions of this earth. I think of I and mine in this very humanistic anthropomorphic way, yet that's not me. and I and mine mark some kind of possessive, eternal thing. But the middle path strikes out a balance between eternal and impermanent. Directly in between that in the middle, neither impermanent nor eternal, nor not, nor both, and both. Absolutely transcendental, the nature of the self. Dharmadhatu called by different names. Just as water during the summertime is spoken of as being something warm, and the very same winter through the winter season is spoken of being something cold, i.e. there is no permanent characteristics, so no absolute discrimination or labeling. Those ensnared in the net of afflictions are referred to by the label of sentient beings. The very same way when freed of states afflicted, as Buddhas are revered. When I and form assume their right relation, appearances appear without a blur. Since these neither arise nor cease, they are the Dharmadhatu, though they are imagined to be otherwise. When I and form assume their right relation, appearances appear without a blur. Since these neither arise nor cease, they are Dharmadhatu, though they are imagined to be otherwise. When I and form assume their right relation, appearances appear without a blur. Since these neither arise nor cease, they are the Dharmadhatu, though they are imagined to be otherwise. So there's a high truth, and a kind of reminiscent of what we read the other day from the Mahayana Mahaparinirvana Sutra, about how that the nature of the not two is inherent within the self and not self. And how that it's really just a matter of reversing perception, and then you see the exact opposite. So likewise, when the perception is covered by illusion, the body is not the self because we identify with it in an ignorant and wrong way. But when the perception is seen truly, the body can be called part of the self. Not arising nor ceasing, seen purely as an extension of that Dharmadhatu. When the I and form assume their right relation, appearances appear without a blur. Since these neither arise nor cease, they are the Dharmadhatu, though they are imagined to be otherwise. So you don't identify the body as being something permanent. And therefore, you don't see anything impermanent. As being inherently real. So your perception is without the cloudiness of visualizing impermanent things to be permanent. So therefore, what do you see? When the sound and ear assume their right relation, a consciousness free of thought occurs. These are in essence the Dharmadhatu, free of other characteristics, but they become hearing when thought of conceptually. Dependent on the nose and odor one smells, and with the examples of form there is neither arising nor cessation, but in dependence upon nose consciousness experience, the Dharmadhatu is thought to be smell. The tongue's nature is emptiness, the sphere of taste is voidness as well. These are in essence the Dharmadhatu, and are not the causes of the taste consciousness. Wow. So the essence of the Dharmadhatu is essentially the only thing. But ignorance of it views it as being a concrete, objective, eternal, permanent, unchanging kind of reality. And it is in its own way, but it's not unchanging. And it is unchanging, and neither, and both. The perfect middle way of truth. Let's see, this quote. So he's saying that the middle way is the nature of literally everything. Although we don't perceive it like that. But if we could, we would see the absolute nature inherent within everything. We would see the temporary manifestation that this body is. Like a lightning flash, the body is being formed by the kundalini, the chakras, the tattvas. Everything is mixing together to form these dhatus, these elements of sight, sense, taste, etc. All these things are of the nature of the Dharmadhatu, flickering, void in that sense of inherent existence, existing in relation to certain causes and interdependent conditions. The self itself, the body, is like the universe. So when it can be seen like that, free from obscurations, then it appears properly and not in ahamkara, false ego. The tongue's nature is of emptiness. The sphere of taste is voidness as well. These are in essence the Dharmadhatu. The pure body's essence, the characteristics of the object, touch, the tactile consciousness free of conditions. These are the Dharmadhatu. The phenomena that appear to be mental consciousness, the chief of them all, are conceptualized and then superimposed. When this activity is abandoned, phenomana's lack of self-essence is known. Knowing this, meditate on the Dharmadhatu. And so is all that is seen or heard or smelled, touched, and imagined. When yogis and yoginis understand these in this manner, all their wonderful qualities are brought to consummation. Very deep. So it's saying instead basically of a relative existence where all of these qualities, emotions, thoughts, sense perceptions are seen in a relative way, and they don't bring really pleasure. They bring, mixtures of pleasure and pain. When the consciousness is purified, when they're understood properly, the sense objects, the reality is understood properly, samadhi is attained, all of the senses are brought to their consummation of their most wonderful qualities, and you experience a type of intense pleasure in relation to these aesthetic truths. And that's really what Krishna embodies. the consummation of all of these wonderful qualities of aesthetic experience. Perceptions, doors, and eyes, and ears, and nose, and tongue, and body, and the mental gate, all these 6 are utterly pure. The consciousness purity itself is suchness defining characteristic. The consciousness's purity itself is suchness's defining characteristic. Self-awareness is the cause and result of liberating wisdom. See how the mind has 2 aspects. It can be worldly, it can transcend the world. From clinging to a self comes samsara. When there is self-awareness, there is suchness. The ceasing of desire is nirvana, as is stupidity's and anger's end. For these to cease is Buddhahood itself, the refuge of ennobled beings. One either proceeds with knowledge or proceeds without. Samsara and nirvana both have their source in the body. Either you are bound by your own thinking, or if you know the true nature, you are free. Enlightenment is neither near nor far. It does not go away nor come to you. Right there within the cage of your afflictions, either you see it or you will not. Abiding in the lamp of wisdom, prajna, will lead to peace, the most sublime there is. Examining for self is the way to abide. That is taught in scores of sutra texts. Examining for self is the way to abide. That is taught in scores of sutra texts. So, keeping awareness whenever you act from the sense of self, you should be utterly selfless. And in doing so, realize the true self. There's a Taoist text that says, the man who keeps himself last is always first. The strengths, all 10, assist the immature with a blessing force like that of the full moon. But as long as they are caught up in afflicted ones, being will fail to see the thus gone ones. Just as in those hungry ghost realms, see the sea as dry before their eyes. Just so within ignorance's grip, who think the Buddhas don't exist. For lesser beings and those with lesser merit, no matter what transcendent conquerors do, it is like placing a precious jewel in the hands of someone who never knew how to see. For beings who have amassed sufficient merit, the signs are radiant with shining light, all 32 ablaze with brilliant glory. Beings like these dwell in Buddha's presence well. The protectors inhabit forms of bodily dimension for many kalpas and many years to come. However, in order to tame disciples, they demonstrate different activities in the expanse that tames. On definitely targeting its goal, consciousness engages in its object within the purity of self-awareness. The Bodhisattva's grounds all inherently abide. The mighty Lord's magnificent abode, the beautiful domain of Akanishta, and consciousness, the 3 of these together can blend into one, I dare say. For the immature it renders total knowledge, for noble ones afford variety, to the mighty gods it grants long life. It is the cause for life-spanning kalpa's long march. It is that which guards the outer realm of beings and preserves their lives as well as throughout countless kalpas. It is that which makes it possible for life to persevere within all living beings. This is the very cause that knows no end. The result of such a cause are endless too. When imperceptibility is realized, prajna becomes the condition for nirvana's dawning. Transmutation. Awareness transformed the causes of suffering into purity, into nirvana. Enlightenment should not be thought of as far off, nor should it be considered close at hand, When objects six in kind do not appear, the genuine is known just as it is. Just as milk and water mixed together are present in the very same container, but a crane would drink the milk and not the water, the case of transformation is like this. There is primordial awareness, there are covering afflictions, where both are found together in one's body. But the primordial awareness is what yogis choose to take and leave the ignorance behind. For as long as I and mine are held to exist, and the outside is imagined as well, when both forms of selflessness are seen, the seed of existence is destroyed. The Dharmadhatu is the ground for Buddhahood, nirvana, purity, and permanence. The immature impute the two kinds of self, and yogis abide without these two. In giving, one endures a range of hardships, and ethics gathers in the benefit of beings. Through patience, one performs the good of all. These three will cause the potential to unfold. Through being diligent in all teachings, and steeping mind in meditative samadhi, through thorough reliance in prajna, enlightenment will grow and flourish. Prajna endows one with skillful means, prayers of aspiration that purify the mastery of strengths and thereby wisdom. These four will cause the potential to unfold. Do not commit yourselves to bodhicitta. There are some who desire such dire word, but there were no bodhisattvas to develop the Dharmakaya. But were there no bodhisattvas to develop, the Dharmakaya would be out of reach. One who throws away the seed of sugarcane but wants to taste the sweetness of its fruit yields will, without the seed, have no sugar at all. When someone values seed from sugarcane, maintains them well, and works to make them grow, a crop of sweetest sugar can be harvested, and just as what has come about like this, through valuing the bodhicitta fully, that is the heart mind of love and compassion, maintaining it and working with it well, the arhats and pratyeka Buddhas arise, as so the perfectly enlightened Buddhas. Just as seeds of rice and other plants are treated by the farmer with great care, aspirants who wish to make the greatest journey are treated by their guides with greatest care. Just as on the 14th day of waning the moon is barely visible at all, for aspirants who wish to make the greatest journey, the kayas are but barely visible. Just as the moon, when it is new, visibly grows larger bit by bit, those who have reached the bhumis see the Dharmakaya more and more. Just as the 15th day of waxing the moon has reached its completion and is full, just so for those who have reached the bhumi's endpoint, the Dharmakaya shines and becomes complete and clear. The bodhicitta, perfectly engendered, engaging mind of bodhicitta, through stable and consistent dedication to the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, does not decrease and develops more and more. When the 4 meaner deeds have been relinquished, and the 4 better deeds have been embraced, just then is thatness definitely realized. This is what the joyful, quote-unquote, thoroughly signifies. The stained are those whom shifting patterns mark with the constant stains of desire and the rest. Whoever has grown free of that flaw is pure, and this is what the stainless signifies. Once affliction's net is rent asunder, a flawless wisdom shines, and with its light purifies all darkness past all limit, removing it and hence illuminates. It shines with light that is always pure, primordial awareness which eliminates diversion. It's steeped in light which shines on every side. This bhumi hence is known as radiant. Since awareness, feats, and crafts are mastered here, the range of meditative concentrations themselves and kleshas difficult to purify completely have been vanquished, so difficult to overcome is its name. With enlightenment of all three types included and everything perfectly and complete, perfected and complete, with birth no more, disintegration finished, this level is quote-unquote directly manifest. Since the Bodhisattva's web of brilliant light with its display reaches every point in their surroundings, and since they have crossed samsara's swampy ocean, they are called the ones who reach far, Tathagata. Definitively guided by the Buddhas, in contact with primordial awarenesses, sea, like ocean, spontaneous and free of any effort, unshaken by the Mara's echelons. Since the yogis at this level have perfected the dialectics used to teach all points connected with precise corrected awareness, it takes the name quote-unquote select intelligence. The body at this point is made of primordial awareness, is equal to unpolluted sky. The vigilance afforded by the Buddhas forms the cloud of dharma everywhere. The ground of the qualities of the Buddhas, the fruits of training fully held in hand, the transformation when perfectly completed is given Dharmakaya as its name. Samsara's tendencies are ponderable, freedom from tendencies is not. Samsara's tendencies are ponderable, freedom from tendencies is not. You are completely inconceivable. Who could ever have the power to know you? Beyond the pale of speech entirely, and not an object senses power's grasp, realizing you takes the mind's awareness, I bow in praise of all that you embrace. The illustrious heirs of the Buddhas, by following the path step by step with primordial awareness that attains the cloud of Dharma, the 10th bhumi, can see emptiness, the pure mode of being. As soon as the mind has been utterly cleansed, samsara's cage confinement broken through, these will assume their rightful place upon a wondrous lotus flower seat, utterly surrounded on all sides by lotus flowers making many tens of millions, each endowed with tantalizing anthers. Their leaves alight with many precious gems. The Buddhas with 10 powers are replete, their fearlessness sets others' minds at ease. Their qualities are inconceivable, from simplicity's domain they never fall. Through excellent practicing all paths they've gathered merit, garnered wisdom full, so they are like the harvest moon on high, surrounded by its court the clustered stars. With a hand like the sun, Buddha holds a flawless gem with light ablaze. With this the enlightened one empowers the most senior heirs, this Abhishek, greatest of them all. Abhishek is when they pour the different substances on the deities. Likewise, the Buddha's hand holds a gem like a sun, a flawless gem with light ablaze, and with this the enlightened one empowers the most senior heirs, this Abhishek, the greatest of them all. The mighty yogis living on this plane look with godlike eyes on worldly beings, inferior because of mental blindness, whom suffering can frighten and distract. And having seen them, light rays shines from their bodies, shine without the slightest stain at all, and open up what gates there are for all who wander in their own confusions dark. Those who have reached nirvana with remainder believing they have reached nirvana that's without, The nirvana that is reached in this tradition is freeing the mind of any flaw. Those who have reached nirvana with remainder believe they have reached nirvana that's without. The nirvana that is reached in this tradition is a freeing of the mind of any flaw. Sentient being's essence free of substance. In the sphere that is encountered on this plane, seeing this is the royal bodhicitta, the dharmakaya, free of every flaw. Seeing this is the royal bodhicitta, the dharmakaya, free of every flaw. When the dharmakaya is seen in all its purity, this is transformation, wisdom see, and from its depths a wealth of precious jewels fulfills beings' needs, as they have always wished. And that's the end of in praise of the Dharmadhatu, the Dharmadhatustotra. Gate, gate, para gate, para sam gate, bodhi soha, gate, gate, para gate, para sam gate, bodhi soha, gate, gate, para gate, para sam gate, bodhi soha, gate, gate, para gate, para sam gate, bodhi soha, gate, gate, para gate, para sam gate, bodhi soha, gate, gate, para gate, para sam gate, bodhi soha, gate, gate, para gate, para sam gate, bodhi soha, gate, gate, para gate, para sam gate, bodhi soha, gate, gate, para gate, para sam gate, bodhi soha, gate, gate, para gate, para sam gate, bodhi soha, gate, gate, para gate, para sam gate, bodhi soha, gate, gate, para gate, para sam gate, bodhi soha, gate, gate, para gate, para sam Gate
fields of consciousness all empty, relieved every suffering. Sariputra, form is not different from emptiness, emptiness not different from form. Form is the emptiness, emptiness is the form. Sensation, recognition, conceptualization. Sariputra, student, this is the original character of everything. Not born, not annihilated, not tainted, not pure, does not increase, does not decrease, therefore in emptiness. No form, no sensation, no recognition, no conceptualization, no consciousness, no eye, no ear, no toe, nose, no tongue, no body, no mind, no color, no sound, no smell, no taste, no touch, no object of touch, no eye, no world of eyes until we come to also no world of consciousness, no ignorance also, no ending of ignorance, all the way through to old age and death, also no ending of old age and death, no suffering, no cause of suffering, no nirvana, no path, no wisdom, also no attainment, because no non-attainment. Every bodhisattva depends on highest perfect wisdom, because mind meets no obstacle, because of no obstacle, no fear is born. Gone beyond all topsy-turvy absolutes, attain nirvana. Past, present, and future, every Buddha depends on highest perfect wisdom, therefore attain supreme perfect enlightenment. Therefore I know highest perfect wisdom is the great holy mantra, the great untainted mantra, the supreme mantra, the incomparable mantra, is capable of assuaging all suffering, true because not false. Therefore he proclaimed highest perfect wisdom mantra, and proclaimed mantra says, Tayata Gate Gate Paragate Parasam Gate Bodhi Swaha. O Sariputra, this is how a bodhisattva mahasattva comes to know the highest perfect wisdom. Then Buddha praised the noble Avalokiteshvara. Excellent, excellent, highest perfect wisdom is accomplished exactly like